It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. Good to have you in studio today. We're going to be talking about the American Red Cross, the Grand Canyon chapter of the American Red Cross. Regional CEO of the American Red Cross, Bill Epps, is in studio today. Thank you for driving up from Phoenix to be with us this morning.
Glad to do so. Good morning.
I appreciate your time. I really do appreciate your time. Brian Gomez is somebody new to your agency, and he has been flooding us with emails about just all the great things that the Red Cross has been doing. And when I say flood our emails, that's not a bad thing, because Brian's emails have been, it's almost been like a wake-up call for me, because we usually have the Red Cross in, I told you before show, usually about once a year we have the Red Cross come in and just kind of remind folks that you're out there and that you're always looking for volunteers and donations for funding and stuff. But he really has helped me remember that the Red Cross is just so important to us. And I went to the website this morning and I looked at the Grand Canyon chapter of the Red Cross was established back in 1916.
Yes, and it was a lot of Red Cross chapters were established around World War I. Mm-hmm. And that was, at the time, the Red Cross, and we still do, we're the emergency communications link between military personnel and their families around the world. So if there's a circumstance where a military member, a military family needs to get in touch with an active duty person, it's the Red Cross that will screen and verify the information and get it to the active duty military personnel member. And we do that roughly about 5 times a day right now. Okay. We're providing those types of emergency messages. And that's when really the great growth in Red Cross chapters throughout the country occurred, was in that stretch of World War I and World War II.
Neat. Well, just back, Brian Gomez is doing a great job for you guys, because he really did put you back on the map, at least up here. And what some of his press releases that he's been sending is the local folks in Yavapai County that have been dispatched to help out with Hurricane Sandy in New York. Tell me a little bit about that.
You know, we've, as a chapter, we've sent, I think, more than 35 volunteers to Sandy for the relief operation. One volunteer has gone 3 times. One has gone twice, and one of our staff members has gone twice. Mm-hmm. Because of the vast size of the storm and the many people that were impacted by it. The Red Cross, even today, will probably deliver about 40,000 meals to people in New York. And it's 3.5 months since the storm hit. So even though it's no longer part of the mainstream consciousness, fact is the Red Cross still has a very active operation and will continue to do so for many months ahead. Our operations at Katrina, for example, didn't end until like 5 years after the storm had first passed, and we're still active in Haiti, and that's 3 years after the incident. So long after the emergency relief phase of the operation is over, the Red Cross is still active, and there are still volunteer opportunities for people to go to New York and make a real difference in helping people recover from a very devastating storm.
Now, how does that work? Let's say I'm a Red Cross volunteer. Mm-hmm. How does that work? How do you approach us to get us to go do something like that?
Well, the organization will let us know they need volunteers or they need people in these particular areas. Some of them may be in casework, where there will be trained individuals to work with families and determine what their needs are. There will be some who will be trained in nursing, because when you're running large shelters, there are health issues that come up in shelters, and we have trained volunteer nurses who go to help provide those services. We also have trained mental health counselors, who are individuals who are professionals in the field but will volunteer for us and go, because if you can imagine a shelter and you're around 800 or 1,000 people that you don't know, and you don't know what condition your home is going to be in or your neighborhood is going to be in while a storm is approaching. Boy. It's a very stressful circumstance. Yeah. And so having those trained professionals there to help ease people's concerns is a very critical component of what we do that is unfortunately not as well known as everything else, but certainly in my view a very valuable service that we provide. We also have volunteers who will help deliver meals. And we'll go in what we call our emergency response vehicles, or ERVs, and we had 2 of those vehicles on the East Coast delivering meals. They can do about 700 meals a day. And as an organization, I think we have more than 100 of those vehicles there, just as part of the massive mobile feeding operation that we have. So, you know, it's a significant operation. We're also helping with some of the longer term issues, such as helping to remediate mold in people's homes. You can fix the homes, but if you don't make sure all the mold is out of it, that doesn't really work.
So how do you help with something like that?
Well, we work with partners who are experts in that, and with some of the donations that we get from people, we work with those companies, identify homes that need it, because if that's the only thing that is preventing somebody from moving into their home, certainly it's a valuable service that we provide and consistent with our mission in helping to get people back in their homes as quickly as possible.
I think a lot of us don't even realize just how much the Red Cross does.
Well, it's a very diverse organization with all of the services that we provide, and also working with a lot of partners in the Sandy relief efforts. There's the emergency relief phase of the operation, which is basically the sheltering, to make certain that people, if they have no other place to go, they have a safe place to go, they'll have food, there'll be nursing services available and mental health services available. Then after that, we can help people try to get back into their homes. One of the real challenges with this is that so many homes were affected, and we're talking about, in some cases, the most expensive real estate in the world.
Sure.
That there just isn't a lot of options for temporary housing until all the permanent housing is back up and running. But anything that's been impacted by the storm that we can help move people back into their homes is an area either we will do directly or we'll work with our other partners to make certain that people get all the assistance that they need. So it's a vast job, and it's more than any one agency can do, but we really are kind of the coordinating agency with multiple partners to help make certain that everything we can do for the survivors of this disaster and other disasters is done for them.
It's tough to try to wrap my head around just how big the Red Cross is. I mean, your volunteers, it's got to be in the thousands, because, I mean, we're talking, you're in Haiti still, Katrina, New York, Mississippi had that big tornado, and
right.
I know I've seen some press releases in regards to the Red Cross responding to the victims of the Mississippi tornado. How many volunteers do you have? It's got to be tremendous.
Well, for us, just in the Grand Canyon region, it's more than 600,
okay.
The number of volunteers that we have. And if you look at there being 110 Red Cross regions across the country and multiply that times 500 or 600 each, you get to a pretty big number pretty quickly.
Thousands.
And you know, we need them. I mean, you can see if just because Sandy is sitting, we have all these operations going on there. If there's another significant disaster, Mississippi, you know, we can't say, sorry, we're busy in Sandy. We've got to be able to respond there too. And that's why we need this network of volunteers all across the country. Because not only for the larger disasters, but also the single-family house fires that we respond to, we need to continue to do those operations. And in the 10 Arizona counties that we serve, we respond to a house fire about once every 14 hours on average. So about 500 a year. And the first responders are always trained volunteers. It's never paid staff that make those first visits. It's volunteers who drop everything to help families in need. And it's, even after all these years of working with the organization, it's truly remarkable to see just how much our volunteers are willing to do for others.
Red Cross has got an awful big heart.
We do.
Yeah, it's an awful big heart. We have to take a break, okay? Regional CEO of the American Red Cross, Bill Epps, in studio today. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
So, I got this new family, and I don't know what it is about this one, but she can't seem to put down that toy all day long. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, and she even talks to it. She talks to that more than she talks to him. What's up, bro? Nice shirt. Who's she talking to? Her mom? She talks to her mom a lot.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Bill Epps is here from the American Red Cross. He's the regional CEO, drove up from Phoenix to be with us today and fill us in a little bit more about what the Red Cross does. And as we found out already, there's a bunch of stuff that the Red Cross does, and it's all based pretty much on the volunteers. If it wasn't for the volunteers, the Red Cross wouldn't be...
We wouldn't exist.
You wouldn't exist.
We wouldn't exist because we couldn't deliver the level of services that we do, and we also wouldn't exist because we'd have no money. We are not a government agency. We're not funded by the federal government or any state government to do what we do. We exist on private donations from corporations, foundations, and individuals. So all of the money that we raise is a gift from the American public.
I would think just about anybody you helped winds up becoming either a volunteer or a donator to the Red Cross.
Well, some do, and you know, a lot of the families that we help are in very difficult circumstances,
Sure.
and so there's no expectation on our part that anyone that we help will do that. Some certainly do, but you know, a lot of the people that we help in the single-family fires every day are people who, you know, they're working, they may be single parents, and they just have a bad set of circumstances and a fire happens, and we make certain that any family that had a home before a fire is not left homeless because of one. And when you figure that we're responding to 500 fires a year, the cumulative impact on helping families maintain their homes over time is significant. And more than just for the fact that, you know, Red Cross is not necessarily looked at as an organization that deals with the homeless issue, but the fact is we prevent homelessness from getting worse because every time there's a fire, there's a threat of that for the people that we help, and we make certain that that doesn't occur.
Amazing. Let's say I volunteer for the Red Cross. I'm in broadcasting. I would imagine that volunteers, when you look at your volunteers, I don't know if it's part of the application process, but what do you do for a living, or what did you do for a living? That's got to come into play for you guys.
Well, it does, and as I mentioned a little earlier, we had volunteer PR people, public information officers, going to Sandy, and we utilize volunteer PIOs for our work in the office pretty much every day.
Do you look at that as you go down the list, say, okay, we need volunteers that can... all these vehicles were heavily damaged. Do you look down the volunteer list and see who maybe was a mechanic or?
We can do that, or sometimes, you know, we have arrangements with fleets because as a national organization, we can negotiate with national corporations and get awfully good deals to help make certain that we use our donor dollars as efficiently as possible. But also with volunteers, for example, we need volunteers to help run our shelters, and there may be individuals who have had leadership roles in their corporations or their businesses, and they're retiring and are looking for some way to give back. So people, even if they don't have as direct a skill set as being in media and being able to be a public information officer, there's always opportunities for good leaders in the organization as we look to prepare a potential response for the next wildfire. We need people who can operate shelters and help lead teams, and so there are always going to be volunteer opportunities, and part of what we have is these are kind of the skill sets we need for these volunteer positions, and we look to target recruit people that we think too fit the skills that we need for the services that we're chartered to provide for the American public.
That's really neat. That's really neat. How do I get involved in Red Cross?
Well, redcross.org is a great way to start, and it has all the information about what the local Red Cross is doing, what the National Red Cross is doing, how to volunteer. You can also look on there to see where there are blood drives anywhere near your area if you're interested in making a blood
Red Cross
donation.
does blood drives as well, I noticed.
We do that, and also people can sign up there to take our health and safety programming, which is to learn how to do CPR, how to do first aid, all of those types of programmings that we provide. All of that information is on redcross.org. So that's really a one-stop shop for anything that Red Cross provides. If people are interested in making a financial contribution, they can do that securely online as well. Or if people don't have access to the internet or just would rather not use the computer, they can always call 1-800-RED-CROSS, and they'll have access to all the same information.
If I have a house fire, I've got the police and the fire there, obviously. How is it that the Red Cross knows that I've had a house fire? And then you were telling me before the show that you have a certain amount of time to respond to that.
Right. What will happen is the fire department will, make a determination that the family will need Red Cross assistance, and then the fire departments call us. 24-hour. We have a central number, and we have volunteers on staff who are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they call and say, we've had a fire at this location, we believe this family needs your assistance. Because most families in that state of shock. I mean, imagine it's 2 in the morning and you and your family are standing out on the street in what you went to sleep in because you had a house fire. You're not going to think, gee, I wonder if the Red Cross can help us. So the fire departments, and we work with them constantly to make sure that they know that we're there to help people.
You must be some of the first contact they see then.
We will be. Our volunteers will show up, and the first thing we do is to assess what the family's emergency needs are of food, clothing, and shelter. Sometimes families can go back into their home and it will be fine, but sometimes they don't.
It hasn't been the case lately. We've had, I think, 5 or 6 fires over the last few weeks.
So we'll put the families up in hotels for that night, make sure they have food, make sure they have clothes, and then the next day we'll meet with them with one of our caseworkers, and we'll start to work on the plan as to how they are going to move on and eventually get back into a new permanent location. There are families that occasionally we will help. They can certainly afford the monthly payment in a new place, but not every family has a bunch of cash lying around to pay for that first month's rent and security deposit. And so if that's what it takes to make certain that the family isn't homeless, the Red Cross can provide some assistance in working with the landlords to help there so that the families get back out of a hotel and get back into their new home as soon as possible. Sometimes we can turn that around even if a family has lost everything in a fire. We've gotten people back in new locations within 4 days.
How do you keep all this organized? Because it seems like you're everywhere.
Well, we have the volunteers who go out on these fires are members of what we call our disaster action teams.
Okay.
And we have them interspersed throughout our jurisdiction. So there are some that, and basically broken down into geographic areas. Those teams meet monthly. And they meet amongst themselves, and we have people from our emergency services department there, our communications department, and also other programs so that staff are meeting with volunteers on a constant basis just to make sure everybody's got the latest information about what we do and just talk to them about what they're finding in the field and how we can work with them to make the relief operation as smooth as possible for our customers. And you had mentioned a little bit earlier in the question, we have to respond once we get that call. The national standard is 2 hours. Our average is about 45 to 50 minutes, and we're working continually to reduce that. When we look at the territory that we cover being the size of Great Britain, it's a lot of area to cover, and no matter where it is within those 10 county areas, we have to be there within 2 hours. And as you know, in the rural parts of the state, sometimes it's take a right past here, and we find a way to get the job done every time we're asked to.
Amazing. Regional CEO of American Red Cross, Bill Epps, is in studio today. I'm Paul David. For more information about the Red Cross, you can go to ArizonaRedCross.org. Countywide, we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Hello, everybody. I am Lou Ann Patterson. My family and I would like to welcome you to the Copper Star Indoor Shooting Range, Northern Arizona's premier shooting sports facility. We offer a 25-yard pistol range, a 50-yard archery range, and Arizona's only 100-yard indoor rifle range. In addition, we have a full-line gun shop as well as an archery pro shop. Come check us out. We're located at Highway 260 and Cherry Road, right next to Out of Africa. Looking forward to seeing you all.
I got no pulse, so losing. Shocking. Tries it right all the time. Just had a few drinks. This can't be happening.
Are we clear?
Clear. We're just buzzed. Just buzzed. You didn't tell us that, sir. You're right. This isn't happening. He'll be fine. I feel good. Really? No, not really.
Buzz driving.
Clear.
Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal.
Shocking.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Fire can happen at any time. What would you try to save?
My family photos.
My grandfather's war memorabilia.
My dogs.
I'm firefighter Brandon Wacker with the Cotton Fire Department. A working smoke detector is your best defense in the event of a fire. Make sure you have a smoke detector in every room except your kitchen. Test them monthly and change the battery once a year. Take the time to save the things you can't replace.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Paul David. We've got a couple minutes left in the show. Regional CEO of the American Red Cross, Bill Epps, in studio today. We've learned about the Red Cross and just how big it is and just how many different things you do, from disasters to blood drives to helping a family who lost their home in a fire. It's just amazing how far you guys stretch out and how many people you help. And as we mentioned throughout the show, the word volunteer just keeps coming up and coming up. So we mentioned just a second ago that to be a volunteer for the American Red Cross, you can go to arizonaredcross.org. And you were saying before the show that a lot of the forms and stuff that you fill out for that now, it's all online.
Online, and again, if people just don't want to do the computer thing, they can always call 1-800-RED-CROSS, and that can get them started the same way.
1-800-RED-CROSS. Okay, let's talk funding real quick. We've got about a minute left of the program. Where does Red Cross get all of its funding? I know we kind of touched on it, but...
Sure, multiple sources. We have several United Ways that support us. Also, individual giving will host some special events throughout the year. Corporations and foundations that support our mission are critically important. We have a very active major gifts program where people make really very good-sized contributions to make certain that the mission of the Red Cross is fulfilled, but it is all, again, voluntary support. And we really, as an organization, have come a long way over the last few years in really improving our fundraising capacity. And the American public is always very generous when there's a large-scale disaster such as a Sandy or a Haiti. And the one thing that we need to make certain of is that those day-to-day needs that we're talking about are still essential to be funded too. And fortunately, the people supporting us in the Grand Canyon jurisdiction have just been extremely generous over the last few years. And we have been able to meet every single need that we've had to because of volunteers all the way around, from service delivery to financial as well.
We're out of time, but I also wanted to mention real quick, you guys have also responded up to the Navajo Nation and the Hopi tribe and have been helping with the water shortage up there as well, with the water pipe breaking up there.
We have, yes.
Bill Epps, Regional CEO of the American Red Cross, in studio today. Thanks so much and for all you do.
Thank you.
I'm Paul David. That's today's Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.